Lateral areas of cubes and cuboids. What is a cube? A cube is a box-shaped object that has 6 identical square sides, called faces. And all the angles are right angles. No matter which way you turn a cube, the faces are always the same size. Each length, width, or height of each face is always the same. Think of all the cube-shaped objects we come across in our everyday lives. Sugar cubes, dice. On a hot day, nothing beats a glass of water with large cubes of ice. Some boxes are designed as cubes. It's a very practical shape. What does the lateral area of a cube mean? The lateral area refers to the total surface area of the 4 sides added together. These are the lateral faces, but not the top and bottom faces. The lateral sides, and therefore the total lateral area, of this cube are green. That would be very useful to know if you wanted to buy wallpaper or paint to redecorate. Engineers, product designers, and architects do these calculations all the time. So they work out quantities of building or design materials or how big a building they can fit onto a piece of land. And if we want to calculate the total area of a cube or a cuboid, we can simply work out the lateral area and add it to the area of the base and top of the shape. Now let's recap. There are handy formulas to help you calculate the lateral area of cubes, these 4 sides together, to calculate the lateral area. This shape is called the net. The net is a pattern that you can cut and fold to make a model of a solid shape. If you like this kind of arts and crafts, maybe you should check out origami, which is the art of creating paper shapes and figures using paper. This is what the net of a cube always looks like. Let's try calculating the lateral area of Yara's cube. Each dimension is 15 centimeters long. So how do we find the lateral area? First, we calculate the area of one face. The area of a square is the width multiplied by the height. Since the width and the height of every side of a square are the same, you could say side multiplied by side, or side squared. In this example, 15 multiplied by 15, or 15 squared. This equals 225 centimeters squared. That means each face of this cube is 225 centimeters squared. Now that we know the area of one of the squares, or faces, we can calculate the total surface area of the cube by multiplying this number by 6. To calculate the lateral area of this cube, we only add up the areas of the 4 lateral faces and exclude the base and top of the square. That means we multiply 225 by 4, which equals 900. So the lateral area of this cube is 900 centimeters squared. We could calculate the lateral area another way. First, we calculate the perimeter of one of the square faces. In this case, it is 15 multiplied by 4, which equals 60 centimeters. Then we multiply that number by the height of the cube, which is also 15 centimeters. 60 multiplied by 15 equals 900 centimeters squared. The same answer! So here's a quick recap. To calculate the lateral area of any cube, you either calculate the area of one of the square faces, then multiply by 4. Or calculate the perimeter of the base and multiply that by the height. These 2 formulas both work. Now let's consider another shape that looks a bit like a cube, but it's rectangular. So you could say it's like a stretched cube. Both the cube and the cuboid have 6 faces, and all angles are right angles. The big difference is that the faces of a cube form perfect squares, while the faces of a cuboid are rectangles. 4 faces are identical and the 2 other faces are identical, but they are not all the same. Cuboids are very common in our world. Most boxes you buy things in are cuboids. Buildings are usually cuboids too. Now, how do we calculate the lateral area of a cuboid? We can use one of the formulas that we use to calculate the lateral area of a cube. The lateral area of a cuboid is equal to the perimeter of the base multiplied by the height. take a look at this cuboid. It is 10 centimeters long, 8 centimeters wide, and 7 centimeters high. What is this cuboid's lateral area? Let's take a moment to highlight something important. With cubes, the orientation doesn't matter since all the faces are identical. With cuboids, the position or the orientation of the cuboid is important. Depending on the orientation of the cuboid, the lateral area changes. So, with cuboids, you have to be extra careful before you decide which faces are the base and top of the cuboid and which faces are the sides. Now, we want to calculate the lateral area of this cuboid with this orientation. Remember, the lateral area equals the perimeter of the base multiplied by the height. The perimeter of the base is equal to the length plus the width multiplied by 2. In this case, 18 multiplied by 2, which equals 36 centimeters. What is the cuboid height? With this new orientation, it is 7 centimeters. So the lateral area equals 36 multiplied by 7, which makes 252 centimeters squared. This is the lateral area of this cuboid with this orientation. If the cuboid had been placed like this instead, our calculation to find the lateral area would be different. The perimeter of the base, in this case, would be 15 multiplied by 2, which equals 30 centimeters. The height is now 10 centimeters. 30 multiplied by 10 equals 300. That means the lateral area of the cuboid this way round is 300 centimeters squared. See, same cuboid, but a different lateral area depending on its orientation. It makes a big difference, so always double check which faces are the top and base. It is really useful to know how to do these calculations because cuboids and cubes are common shapes. This classroom, which might be just like yours, is probably a cuboid shape or a series of cuboids. Just by measuring the length, width, and height, you can now work out the room's lateral area. And if it was your bedroom, that would be very useful to know if you wanted to buy wallpaper or paint to redecorate. Engineers, product designers, and architects do these calculations all the time. So they work out quantities of building or design materials or how big a building they can fit onto a piece of land. And if we want to calculate the total area of a cube or a cuboid, we can simply work out the lateral area and add it to the area of the base and top of the shape. Now let's recap. There are handy formulas to help you calculate the lateral area of cubes and cuboids. Take the perimeter of the base and multiply it by the height. For cubes only, not cuboids, you can instead take the area of one of the cube's faces and multiply it by 4. Adding the area of the base and top of the cube or cuboid to the lateral area gives you the total surface area of the cube or cuboid.